On the Democratic side, you saw an interesting development happen with Gavin Newsom releasing a very odd sort of campaign-like ad in Florida. I mean, this was a campaign ad. It's just kind of mysterious. Why would this air in a state 3,000 miles away? So let's take a look at Newsom's campaign ad, and then let's do some Democratic Party primary speculation.
Spoiler alert, it's for the shit lips because they like that stuff.
It's Independence Day, so let's talk about what's going on in America. Freedom, it's under attack in your state. Your Republican leaders, they're banning books, making it harder to vote, restricting speech in classrooms, even criminalizing women and doctors. I urge all of you living in Florida to join the fight. Or join us in California, where we still believe in freedom. Freedom of speech, freedom to choose, freedom from hate, and the freedom to love. Don't let them take your freedom.
Paid for by Newsom for California Governor 2022.
Well, that aired, like I said, in the state of Florida, which has a lot of people speculating, is he making moves behind the scenes to try and run in 2024? I'll give a few thoughts on this, and then I'll toss to you guys. First of all, I don't think Newsom is going to challenge Joe Biden if Joe Biden decides to run. I don't think we're going to see Democratic primary debates between Gavin Newsom, or anybody for that matter, and Joe Biden. The time is now for Newsom to try and dissuade Biden from seeking a second term, and that could be what he's up to here. I
am increasingly starting to think they're going to give him a sit down and walk him out the door.
Well, here's what I think.
I think that the more they're seeing, the more they're like, what have we got to lose? A fucking turnip could beat this guy anyway, so what the hell?
Well, here's the thing.
Let's just have a damn primary and hope somebody halfway competent rises to the top.
I don't see that happening.
I don't think they're gonna have a choice because the cognitive decline is so.
No, but what I'm saying is there might be a primary, but
how can they run this guy?
Well, there might be a primary, but there's not going to be a primary with Biden in. I think.
Oh no! I agree.
They'll force him out.
Yeah. I'm not saying there will be a primary with Biden running. I'm saying I'm increasingly convinced there's going to be a sit down with Biden.
Well, that could be what this Newsom shit is all about, because Newsom is their most formidable candidate if it's not Biden. He just is. And I'm not a fan of Gavin Newsom. He's a very Clintonian type figure. He's kind of a slimeball, typical sort of, neoliberal Obama.
Not only that, what are you bragging about in California? Are you bragging about the tent cities or the wildfires? What are you bragging about?
Well, he's very vulnerable on a number of those things. But what I think is going to happen, I think Gavin Newsom is making these moves now to show that he's serious, to show that he is an option that is on the table. I think what the decision is going to come down to for Gavin Newsom is, can I win a general election? Because Newsom has wanted to be president for a very long time. And I don't think a guy like that is inclined to run in a race that he knows the Republican is going to win anyway. Why blow his shot on a year where the Democrats just have no chance whatsoever? And so I think a big test for Newsom is going to be the midterms. As we mentioned earlier, Russell, before you came on the air, Democrats have a shot in some of these statewide races. Wisconsin, Ron Johnson is looking vulnerable. They're looking to hold a seat in Arizona, which they probably will, actually. They're looking to win in Georgia, which it looks like they have a pretty good shot to. Pennsylvania is going to be tight. We're going to get into that in our last segment. Ohio is even winnable. If the Democrats can sort of juice turnout in major cities in some of these states and win some of these Senate races, win some of these governor's races, Newsom might think, okay, with the right guy leading the party, we can win in 2024, and that right guy is me, not Biden. I'm getting in. Get the word out to this fucking old man. Get out. If the Democrats can't win these statewide races, if they just get trounced up and down the board from the House to the governor's races to the Senate, he might think, you know what? I'm not blowing my shot on a year where my party has no chance. They could run FDR and JFK together and they would still lose. I don't think he's going to take that shot. So that's what I think it comes down to. In very simplified terms, I think if Democrats hold the Senate, Newsom probably takes a shot at it. If they don't hold the Senate, I think it sends a signal to him that 2024 is a lost cause anyway, and he'll stay out.
I mean, if Biden's not running, he's not wrong in terms of getting the nomination. I think the blind spot that Democrats have is they don't realize that ad for most Americans was an ad for Ron DeSantis.
It's funny you mention that.
Everything he's saying there is cultural signaling that most of the country finds repulsive. With the exception of abortion, people are going to read a lot of the coding there. They want to limit what our children can hear in school. Listen, man, there's a lot of parents around the country who understand what you're saying, and they're like, yes, please. Well,
Russell, you don't know about this.
Please limit what these teachers can say.
I have to cut you off because I could tell by what you're saying that you don't know that such a thing existed, but they actually created a right-wing parody video of that ad. And I will play it for you.
Really?
Right. Yes. And actually, Anise messaged me this before the show. And so we'll play that right now. I wasn't planning on playing it, but since you brought that up, I just have to.
Right.
So I'll play this right now. This gets into some nasty stuff about, welfare queens and stuff, which I obviously do not endorse. But I do think this speaks to a lot of what, Russell, you just said. So here, let's give it a watch.
So let's talk about what's going on in America. Freedom is under attack in your state. Dictator Ron DeSantis incredibly lets you walk around without masks. That tyrant allows your kids to go to school during the pandemic, year 2 or 4, or who the hell knows. I urge you living in Florida to join the fight. Or join us in California, where we'll take the money you earn and give it to people who don't work. Visit San Francisco, where you can walk through human feces. If you're lucky, you might step on a syringe. Check out Los Angeles, where gas is so expensive, your kids only need to skip a meal or 2 or 10 to afford it. California, where freedom means lockdowns for you, while I go to the places you can't afford. Don't let them take your freedom. Come to California, where we'll take it, along with your money.
I mean, that makes your point for you, does it not?
Okay, and listen, this is another point I keep making. By becoming the uptight, censorious, holier-than-thou people, by switching with the traditional right, they made the right funny. Like, I can't believe that we've given satire to the right. Like, come on, man. That was always our thing. The right was never funny, by definition. Almost by definition. That's why I keep saying I don't even know what right and left is anymore. I just don't know what the fuck it is anymore, because I'm watching that. I'm like, yeah, man, that's like 1970s irreverent, anti-establishment kind of humor, only directed at a nominally left establishment. It's all so fucking weird. They put in the little coded thing about welfare. But yeah, sure. I mean, that Newsom ad, that's what always strikes me about Democratic messaging. It's coming from such an elite bubble. They just don't understand how repulsive it is. They don't understand how much of what they're saying is going to be read by people as, oh no, I'm voting Republican. Like, I just watched that Newsom ad. I listen to what the conservatives say. I know how they're going to read that Newsom ad, and yeah, it's pretty much what that satire said. Oh yeah, let the People's Republic of California take over your state and tell you how to raise your child. Like that's how they're reading things like that.
Anise, what do you think about the Democrat primary? Because you messaged me a few nights back, and now you've kind of backed off of that prediction a little bit, but you seemed to think at the time that Newsom was going to succeed in just kind of pushing Biden out of the way and becoming the nominee and perhaps even winning in 2024.
Yeah, that's a matter of intuition again. And I see Newsom versus DeSantis. I don't see any Democrat. And, let's take the ad that you played, California versus Florida, these two different models, seriously. And I think Newsom has some tremendous advantages but he's also got disadvantages. So I agree that there's no way that he challenges Biden or anybody does.
Nobody will do
Nobody's
that.
going to challenge that. That's not going to happen. We all understand that, right? However, the fact that the New York Times ran 2 essays, and I think the Atlantic Monthly started that, and then Michelle Goldberg wrote, "Is Biden too old?" So what is that all about? When there's something so concerted, this doesn't just happen that the Times, the paper of record, just comes out and says, "Oh, Biden's too old." They're seriously thinking of this option. They're holding it in reserve, depending on Trump versus DeSantis and what the situation is after the midterms, in terms of whether or not to dump Biden, right? Then I think among all these other people, they have no chance. Kamala is not going to be president. She doesn't have the political skills. Pete, Amy, Elizabeth Warren, they have no chance, right?
No.
The only person that I see on the horizon that seems to me intuitively like that, this guy could be the one, that's Gavin Newsom. And if you look at him, I mean, it's very interesting. He's not going to challenge him, but he's put this ad out, obviously, to start that thought process, to keep it, keep the right. He's given out the message. I'm out there. If you want me. Now, the question is, how do you get past Kamala and the 25
very
people?
Easily.
Right, exactly. That's what I'm getting at, is it's not, you might think that, if 25 people, but it's not going to be just Kamala. It's going to be 25 people. If Biden says, "I'm going to run," right, you're not going to be able to stop
everyone's going to
25
jump
people
in.
from running, right? It becomes a circus. However, in this country, that's easy to manage because you can just put out a poll or a bunch of polls showing, oh, Gavin Newsom gets 42% or 49% or whatever. Among all, suddenly he's the only front runner, and everybody, even Bernie Sanders, gets like 10%, 9%, 12%. And these few polls come out, and suddenly it becomes self-fulfilling. And Kamala is nowhere to be seen. So maybe you've solved that problem, but that it might not be as easy as that, right? But you could see that happening if it becomes a real messy shootout with 25 people, with Kamala and Gavin and 20 other people going at it, and maybe even Bernie throwing his hat in the ring. Then nobody wins. It's a Republican who would win because it just gets too messy, right?
Look, I think Newsom would win. And look, I say this as a dispassionate analyst at this point. Everybody knows, I'm not a big fan of Gavin Newsom, right? Obviously, I would love to see Nina Turner win the primary and win the presidency. That's not going to happen, right? Gavin Newsom is the most formidable Democrat for 2024. There's no question about that. I don't say that gleefully. I just say that as a sober-minded analyst.
I mean, sure, but it's a leper with the most fingers contest.
No, but I think
it's a matter of politics.
I mean, you're talking about him running against who? Kamala, Pete. So sure.
No, but that's what I mean. He would have a chance.
It doesn't mean he doesn't suck, though. I mean, I don't see any particular political talent on his part.
No, I disagree. I mean, I think I see him as immensely politically talented. And I've just... How
so?
Let me explain. I've just started looking into him. I've got to catch up with 20 years of California politics and all the ins and outs of what happened with Willie Brown and, Jerry Brown, and now the last 10 years of Gavin Newsom, and when he was mayor, and lieutenant governor, and so on. So therefore, I've got a lot of catching up to do. I'm not an expert on this by any means, but there's a lot of interesting stuff going on. So he was supported by Bill Clinton. He is Clintonian in that sense. And this goes back to why would they want to get rid of Biden, right? When the New York Times puts out these essays, it's to preserve neoliberalism from a horrible demise at the hands of Trump or whatever, in 2024, right? And so it's gotten so bad that you want to make the argument, instead of looking at policies, you say it's age. Biden is just too old. He doesn't have the vigor to fight off these horrible, Republican policies. We just need a younger, brilliant, handsome, vigorous guy. And who's that guy? Well, that's Gavin Newsom. So, and I also mentioned offline to you, Keaton, when I saw...
I mean, in a way, look, if you're talking about Gavin Newsom, versus Ron DeSantis in this cultural moment,
Mhm.
I would liken that to 2016, because you could not pick a better foil for Ron DeSantis than the fucking French market attending governor of
Well,
California.
let me
French
talk.
laundry.
That's the
French
perfect
laundry.
opponent for him.
Right.
That's the Hillary of 2024 if you run Gavin Newsom.
Well, actually,
He'll be running right into a fucking buzzsaw.
No, I don't
Yes,
think
he
it's
will.
Hillary of
Yeah, have
2024.
you looked at California lately? Like, you could not have
Right.
a better person to represent everything people hate about Democrats than
I
Gavin
understand.
Newsom,
Right. I understand
just like
the
Hillary.
systems.
Well,
Right,
sure you
but
could.
let
No,
me-
I don't agree with that. I'm sure you could. Pete,
Well, if
Kamala,
you run
they're
Nancy
worse.
Pelosi. Yeah.
Pete, yeah, but Pete Buttigieg, Kamala Harris, Warren, right? I think those are all worse. I think
Right.
those are all worse. Again,
Look,
you say it's lepers with
I
the
don't-
most fingers, fair enough, but I think they're all worse.
Well, let me compare
Not
that
really,
to-
man, because you can hang California around his neck.
Yeah, but you can hang.
Like, California is Exhibit A for bad liberal governance.
Yes and no.
Why
Yes,
liberals
Yes and no.
can't be
I
in
think
charge.
I think
Yes,
Denise is
no.
right. I think yes and no.
Yes,
I think
no,
there's
disagree with that.
because they're running a $60 billion budget surplus. They're the fifth largest
Right,
economy on the
right.
planet. So he can boast executive experience in that way.
He's a governor of the
Right.
largest, most prosperous, most advanced, most open, most diverse state in the country, right there. So here's the thing, and I mentioned that to you offline, Keaton. I wouldn't compare him to Hillary in 2016, Hillary 2024. I would compare him to Bill Clinton in 1992, because if you look at Gavin's record over the last, as mayor, as lieutenant governor, and now as governor, you see a series, and this is where he has the advantage and the disadvantage, because the question is this the right moment, economic moment, cultural moment, post-Trump? Trump is only 2 years in the rearview mirror, to bring out the governor of this most prosperous state, and what kinds of issues is he dealing with? Pensions, making education even better, racial justice issues, helping the undocumented. He's even mentioned, single-payer healthcare, although that's not going to happen in California, so it's safe for him to mention. Generally, he's neoliberal and Clintonian, as I said, even supported by Bill Clinton in the past. And they're also very intertwined, Kamala and Gavin. I mean, the question was 4 years ago, who was going to be governor, who was going to be senator? Kamala decided to go the senator route and ended up as VP, but it could have been Gavin. So Gavin said, okay, I'll be the governor, right? So they have this friendly rivalry going, which makes it even more interesting. What if they end up head to head, right? But the point is, he sounds like, to me, more than anyone, Bill Clinton in 1992. He's extremely articulate. He's got the technocratic stuff down cold, despite his, neoliberal, inclinations, right? But the question is, when the country looks at it, and the kinds of issues that he's talking about, so California can afford to go into lockdown in 2020, right? He's the lockdown guy. DeSantis is the opposite. We can
Right.
lock down the state. We got like tens of billions of dollars in surpluses, right? We are the most prosperous state. It is also maybe perhaps the most unequal state, with the tent cities and homelessness and the incredible income inequality. We understand all those problems, but those are byproducts of a certain kind of prosperity and a certain kind of cultural milieu. And the question is this the moment where, and like Clinton, I mentioned Clinton because not to the extreme of Clinton in 1996 with, uniforms, school uniforms, and, the V chip on the TV. I'm not talking about that kind of trivial stuff, but Gavin does have a tendency over the last 20 years, if you look at him in different offices, to come with program after program after program that doesn't mess up the fundamental neoliberal unequal arrangement, right? It preserves capitalism as it is, but he gives you something showy and interesting, put a nice face on it. So, for example, one of the things he's known for is this care not cash program, which was, I think this is when he was mayor of San Francisco. So this is basically, well, let's not give you cash if you are a homeless person. We'll help you with your mental health and other issues, right? I'm for cash. Cash is always more progressive, give people money. So, but he comes up with these, it's just this endless thing, promise this and that, and like, a whole range of initiatives, but he's dealing with a state that has these enormous budget surpluses, has been managed well in many ways by Governor Jerry Brown, right, for 8 years. And so is this the moment where Bill Clinton was a populist in 1992 coming from a very poor state, and he was able to come across as this very empathetic guy. And in some ways he was sincerely for, it wasn't all an act on his part, but Gavin coming from California with all the glamour and swank and the smoothness, right? Is this going to fit, this moment? Now, for half the country.
No, it is not. No governor from the wokest state in America is going to win the presidency in 2024. I promise you. I promise you. If they run Gavin Newsom, they will grind him into the fucking dust. They are going to hang every crazy classroom curriculum to ever come out of the San Francisco school board around his fucking neck.
And crime is going to be a major thing for him too.
This is a moment where a lot of the country, they're not allowed to say it on Twitter. They don't want to get banned. They're terrified of what's being taught to their kids, of the cultural Marxism that's being pushed through the public schools. Nobody from the state most strongly associated with those policies is going to be able to win, especially running against Ron DeSantis, who is most strongly associated with trying to pass legislation in his state and create executive orders to put a check on those trends. There is a subterranean battle going on in this country that is perhaps not as visible to people as it should be, because you have a inquisition going on where people are terrified to lose their job. They don't want to say what they actually think. That's why Trump always underpolls, right? That's why Republicans in general underpoll. I am telling you, nobody who's associated with California of all places, should be running in 2024.
I've seen enough of Gavin to know that they're not going to be able to hang this stuff around his neck. They're not going to be able to. He's way too politically hard.
Did you see the parody Keaton just ran? They'll be doing that to him every day, and it was funny.
But he's ultimately a centrist, moderate. He's playing to.
These are not times for that. These are not those times.
He's in California.
And on the cultural shit, he is not. You can't be. You can't be in that state as a Democrat.
He's a liberal. He's not a socialist.
He's a liberal, exactly. And all the liberals are beholden to the cultural trends because they don't have any economics to stand on, so they have to be woke.
No, I don't.
Nobody from the wokest state in America can win in this election cycle. Absolutely no way.
Because he's playing to the liberal base in California, because that's.
I'm not saying he can't win a primary. You're talking about a bunch of fucking zombies who walked into a voting booth and voted for Joe Biden when they were told to. They'll vote for anyone that MSNBC tells them to vote for. I'm not saying he can't win the primary. I'm saying he can't win the election.
I think. Well, my first instinct was this thought occurred to me some time ago. I was like, DeSantis versus Newsom. Newsom wins. Newsom wins because he's genuinely.
No way. Okay, right here on the air. I'm putting $20 on it.
Okay.
All right, me and you, baby. Keaton's going to hold the digital money.
I'll get in on it. I mean, by 2024, that $20 is going to be worth about 3 cents. So it's not a very high stakes bet. It's not a very high stakes bet.
Please clap.